Why soil turns into concrete. There is a kind of silence in a dead garden that every gardener knows. Not the peaceful silence of early morning, when dew still clings to the leaves and the world feels unhurried. This is different. This is the silence of soil that has stopped working. The silence of ground that no longer gives. You kneel down and press your palm flat against the earth. And what you feel is not soil. It is stone. Gray, compacted, unyielding, concrete wearing the costume of dirt. You drive a trowel into it and the handle vibrates like you've struck pavement. Because in every way that matters, you have. This is the soil in millions of backyards right now. Across gardens in every climate, in every country, in every neighborhood where people have tried to grow something and watched it fail. Soil so hard that rainwater pools on top and runs off instead of soaking in. Soil so dense that roots cannot descend more than 2 or 3 inches before hitting a wall of compacted clay. Most gardeners in this situation reach for a bag of fertilizer, or a jug of chemical soil amendment, or a rototiller. They break the surface, add something synthetic, and hope for a different result. Here is the mistake most gardeners make. They treat the symptom. They never touch the cause. And 3 seasons later, the ground is concrete again. But somewhere in a rural county, there is a garden that looks nothing like this. The soil there is dark, almost black. It crumbles when you pick it up, falls through your fingers like coffee grounds. You could push your hand into it to the wrist without resistance. Earthworms surface within seconds of any disturbance. The plants there grow without amendment, without irrigation, without purchased inputs of any kind. And the gardener's secret is not a product. It is a pile of buried waste. The hidden life beneath your garden. To understand what happened to your soil, and what is happening in that thriving garden, you need to go underground. Literally. Healthy topsoil is not dirt. It is a living ecosystem of staggering complexity. A single teaspoon of healthy garden soil contains more microorganisms than there are human beings on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and running through all of it, a vast network of fungal threads called mycelium, connecting root systems across entire beds. This underground world does not simply exist beneath your plants. It feeds them. It protects them. It converts raw minerals into plant-available nutrients, suppresses pathogenic organisms, regulates moisture, and literally creates the airy, crumbly texture we call good soil structure. But this ecosystem has one non-negotiable requirement: organic matter. Constant, decomposing, carbon-rich organic matter. In a forest, this happens automatically. Leaves fall. Branches rot. Animal waste breaks down. Fungi consume the dead and release the living. The cycle never stops. In a typical backyard garden, it stops completely. Topsoil is stripped. Organic material is bagged and removed. Bare ground bakes under summer sun. The microbiome collapses. The fungal network dies. And without those living threads holding particles together in aggregates, the clay compacts under every footstep, every rainfall, every season of freeze and thaw. That is not bad luck. That is a predictable outcome of removing what the soil needs to survive. The buried waste trick does not invent something new. It restores something ancient that modern gardening practice systematically removed. The ancient buried waste method. Long before soil science, before university research, before NPK ratios and synthetic amendments, farmers knew something simple: bury your scraps and the ground grows rich. In pre-industrial Japan, a practice called bokashi was used to ferment kitchen waste underground in sealed pots. In indigenous North American agricultural systems, fish and organic scraps were buried beneath planting mounds. In traditional European cottage gardens, trench composting, digging a narrow furrow, filling it with kitchen and garden waste, and covering it, was standard practice for winter soil preparation. These were not experiments. They were systems that worked for generations. They produced dark, soft, productive soil without any inputs beyond what the household already discarded. The modern version of this method is called trench composting or pit composting, and it remains one of the most effective, lowest-cost soil rehabilitation techniques available. How to do trench composting correctly. You do not need a compost bin. You do not need a tumbler. You do not need to turn, monitor, or manage anything. Choose a section of your compacted bed. Dig a trench approximately 12 inches deep and 12 inches wide. The length can be whatever fits your space. Fill the bottom half with kitchen waste, vegetable peels, coffee grounds, eggshells, fruit scraps, tea bags, shredded cardboard, torn newspaper. Layer in garden trimmings, dried leaves, straw, any carbon-rich material you have. Cover it with the soil you removed. Water it in. Walk away. What happens underground after you bury scraps? Beneath the surface, something extraordinary begins. Bacteria arrive first, consuming the most accessible materials. Fungi follow, threading through the mass and chemically unlocking nutrients locked in complex compounds. Earthworms migrate toward the decomposing zone from surrounding soil, sometimes hundreds per square foot, and as they move, they excrete castings that are among the most plant-available fertilizer known to biology. Their movement aerates the surrounding clay, creating channels for both air and water. Within 8 to 12 weeks, what was compacted, lifeless ground begins to change. Soil above and around the trench softens. Color shifts from gray to brown to, eventually, black. The crumb structure returns. Press your hand into it and it yields. The science behind the transformation. This is not folklore. It is biology with a significant research literature behind it. Studies in soil science have consistently demonstrated that organic matter additions, particularly buried organic matter that decomposes in anaerobic or semi-anaerobic conditions, produce measurable improvements in soil aggregation, water infiltration rate, and biological activity. Research published in the journal Applied Soil Ecology found that buried organic material produced significantly higher earthworm populations within a 12-week period compared to surface applications. More earthworms means more casting, more aeration, more soil particle aggregation. Mycorrhizal fungi, the underground networks that connect plant root systems and dramatically improve nutrient uptake, colonize soil at measurably higher rates when buried carbon is present. In compacted soil with no organic matter, these fungal networks cannot survive. Restore the organic layer and they return within a single growing season. The reason this matters for hard, concrete-like clay soil specifically is this: clay particles themselves are not the problem. Clay is mineral-rich and potentially excellent growing medium. The problem is the bonding of clay particles under pressure without the biological glue of fungal matter and earthworm castings holding them in aggregated clumps. When organic decomposition returns to the soil, this glue returns. Aggregation returns. And the same clay that was impenetrable becomes one of the most fertile soils possible. There is no commercial product required. The waste already leaving your kitchen each week is the amendment. The biology already exists in surrounding soil, dormant, waiting for conditions to improve. 4 mistakes that ruin results. Here is where most people go wrong when they try this for the first time. Mistake 1. Burying the wrong materials. Meat, dairy, cooked foods, and oils should not go in a buried trench without fermentation pretreatment. They attract rodents and create anaerobic pockets that slow decomposition rather than accelerating it. Stick to raw fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, tea, and plant-based trimmings for standard trench composting. Mistake 2. Digging too shallow. A 6-inch trench is not enough. The biological action you are trying to trigger needs depth. 12 inches minimum. 18 is better. Shallow burial either attracts pests or dries out before the microbial community can establish. Mistake 3. Expecting instant results. The first 8 weeks will look like nothing is happening. The surface soil will still feel hard. Underground, however, the transformation is already underway. Patience is the only input this method asks of you. The gardeners who abandon it at week 6 miss everything. Mistake 4. Treating it as a one-time fix. A single trench will improve one area of your garden for one season. The real power of this method comes from rotating it across your beds over multiple seasons. Trench one section in autumn. Trench another in late winter. Over 2 or 3 years, the entire garden bed undergoes a complete biological reset. What gardeners notice after 60 days? Gardeners who adopt this system consistently describe the same progression. First season, improved moisture retention, faster drainage after heavy rain, the reappearance of earthworms they had not seen in years. Second season, visible darkening of the soil, noticeably easier digging, plants establishing faster with less supplemental watering. Third season, soil that no longer requires any amendment at all. The system becomes self-sustaining. Buried waste feeds the biology, biology creates the soil grows the plants produce more organic material, the cycle closes. This is exactly what happens in a forest without any human management. Why this method works better than bagged amendments? There is something worth sitting with here. We live in an era that has convinced us soil improvement requires purchasing. That dark, productive earth is something you buy in a bag and pour from a container. The garden industry, worth tens of billions of dollars globally, has quietly, persistently positioned itself between the gardener and the biology that was always available for free. There is no profit in a vegetable peel. There is no margin in a buried coffee ground. And so these methods are not advertised. They are not on the shelf at the garden center. They require only time, patience, and the waste that every household already produces. The farmers who practiced this for generations did not need university validation. They watched the soil. They observed what worked. They passed it forward. We are not discovering something new here. We are recovering something we were never meant to forget. Your soil is not broken beyond repair. It is waiting. Beneath the gray, compacted surface, the biology is dormant, not dead. Give it organic matter, give it depth, give it time, and the ground that felt like concrete will become something different entirely. Alive. Your 60-day soil recovery challenge. This week, instead of adding anything purchased to your garden, add something buried. Dig one trench in one struggling bed. Fill it with whatever vegetable scraps your kitchen produced this week. Cover it. Water it. Do nothing else. Come back in 60 days and dig a small test hole next to where you buried. What you find in that soil will tell you everything. If you want to go deeper, if you want to understand the full seasonal rotation, which materials work fastest, and how to use this method in raised beds, containers, and heavy clay subsoil, leave a comment below. The response to this video will determine what we cover next. Take care of your soil. It is the only thing your garden cannot grow without.